And something else that just happened last week, U.S. women's national team and U.S. soccer, they settled their equal pay lawsuit that had also been going on for years. And for you, Sam, as a member of the NWSL, so the CBA now affecting you there, but also of the United States women's national team, this settlement between U.S. soccer and the team and those players that fought so long and hard for the equal pay, now that this settlement has happened, what does this mean for the equality of the United States soccer women's national team?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this obviously was something that's been in the works for years, and I first just want to shout out the leaders of this kind of movement. I think people who were on this litigation committee, who were on all the calls, talking to lawyers, went to mediation. Like, there's this group of players who really put in so much time and really kind of set this tone of what this settlement had to look like for us to agree to it. So I think just knowing them and knowing how much work it took, I think it's an incredible accomplishment. But I would be remiss to not mention that the settlement is contingent on our ratifying a new CBA as well. So it's not done yet. We have so much more work to do. We need to get the CBA to a place of agreement and ratified by the members. So I think it's really important that we just shift our focus to that, and it's kind of not over yet. So I think getting a good, equal, fair CBA is the next step in kind of checking this box.
Maybe to sort of stick on that a little bit with the sort of agreement, the settlement agreement in place for now. The next step is, right, the two national teams essentially collaborating to ratify a new CBA. So what are some aspects of this potential CBA with U.S. soccer that are important to you?
Yeah, great question. I have some talking points. I should have pulled them up for this because I could probably give you guys so much better detail if I had them up. I think, again, there's three things. I know one of them is club and country balance. I think one of the things that's really important to us is being here and available for club games. I think in the past with world tournaments and qualifying tournaments, and having games in the league played during FIFA windows, that's been a huge challenge, is we haven't been as present with our clubs as we would like to be. So finding that balance is something that's really important to me. I know that the CBA being equal is obviously the first thing that both parties, of course, are aspiring to figure out what that looks like. And I'm missing a bullet point, which okay. I know this is a podcast, so I can't really do anything about it.
Those are big ones anyway. So thank you for sharing.
It's all right. We didn't prepare you to bring your notes on this. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're celebrating the 50 years of Title IX because that's the anniversary is this summer in June. And the NWSL CBA, the U.S. soccer settlement, now the CBA to come between the U.S. soccer and the national teams. But all of this coming because there wasn't equality before in the past. And it does take time to get to this point. But for you specifically, when you look back at your college days or even starting to play professionally or your time with the national team, any point in your professional or playing career, were there moments that you personally saw gender discrimination or you were faced with it?
I mean, the things that the national team has been fighting for over the years that have been public, some of those instances I was present for in my youth. Like I said, I think I had a lot of good opportunities, and I guess I didn't even really know what I was looking for. This has been an educational opportunity for me as well. I have found over these past few years, especially, that I'm so kind of blown away by my teammates' ability to put what happens into language and put what happens into action. I don't know that I on my own could have recognized what was happening or even could have thought to do what we did. And so in that sense, I think, yes, of course, I've been around this game for a long time, and are there inequalities compared to the men's game? Of course there are. I just think that my experience has been so much this learning position where I look at Becky Sauerbrunn and Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan and Kristen Press, and I look at these women who are asking for more, demanding better, and now I might know better how to do that in the future. So I know it wasn't a trick question, but I can't like go into an instance, but I just think that we've all experienced it in so many small ways and some big ways. And the biggest thing that I've gathered from the last couple of years is that I do deserve better. The game deserves better. And I think I've learned how to talk about that and how to demand it. And I've learned that from my teammates who kind of like led the way.
You know, it's to hear you speak about it too. I think that's probably something that resonates pretty true for a lot of maybe women. If we're just looking back at maybe the scope and the lens of women's soccer in the United States and over the course of maybe like the last 18 months, even we can say that a lot of it has been that. And I think what I find most interesting when we do get players who come on here and we chat a little bit about this, that there are moments where sometimes they say like no to that question, because especially as like for women who are thinking about that question or they think about answering it, their experiences are always different, right? Depending on the person that you're talking about it with, you know? So I appreciate your candor and your honesty in answering that type of question. And I like, you know, hearing you talk a little bit about other players, right? And what you've learned from them, because that's something that we've seen when it comes to talking about or covering women's soccer as well, right? This concept of this concept of being a role model or being the person that, you know, other little girls look up to, right? When you're looking in stands and you see young fans cheering for you or just simply waiting for an autograph or a photo with you, like post game, right? How much of your role and your job do you see is like being a role model for them, adjacent to being a soccer player, right? How important is it to show this next generation that it's possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously so important. I think when I look back on my childhood, again, I was looking up to the 99ers, and it's without that kind of representation of women in sport and then to go a step further, women who look like you in sport. I think that it was so important for me to see that. It's so important for young girls to see us continuing and my teammates continuing with that. I think there's this aspect to the game that like I just want to be the best player that I can be, and I think in turn that will inspire girls. So I don't know if it's like part of the job technically. It's obviously this wonderful addition, and it's this wonderful kind of off-field addition to what I do. But my hope is that the women's game is getting to a point that where what we do on the field is so valued and so important and so good, that's kind of seen as its own thing. And the football, the soccer that is what it is. But of course I want to be a good role model off the field and yeah, on the field too. But I think that there's kind of two lanes for that. And then interacting with fans and seeing young girls is just such a fun, like extra part that is kind of like a perk of the job.